The rain poured endlessly over Oshodi underbridge, washing the streets in muddy streams and drumming hard against car rooftops. Andrew Emeka's black Bentley rolled slowly through the traffic, its polished body gleaming under the scattered streetlights. He sat at the back seat, scrolling through an email on his phone, when his eyes suddenly caught a figure on the roadside. He froze. There, drenched from head to toe, was an old man kneeling in the rain. His tattered shirt clung to his thin body, his beard overgrown and tangled, his hands stretched out desperately. His lips trembled as he begged passers-by for food, just food to survive the day. Andrew's chest tightened. His grip on the steering leather stiffened as his heart skipped a beat. That face. He knew that face. Memories slammed into him like thunder. He was 10 years old again, sneaking into the school swimming pool after class, desperate to prove to himself that he could swim like the athletes he admired on TV. He had jumped into the deep end in his school uniform, smiling for a moment, until panic swallowed him whole. Water rushed into his lungs, his tiny arms flailing helplessly. He was sinking, darkness wrapping around him until strong arms pulled him out, a man's voice shouting, "Stay with me, boy." It was him, the janitor, Mr. Williams. Andrew's throat dried as he whispered in disbelief, "No, it can't be." He leaned forward, eyes locked on the man kneeling in the storm. The Bentley slowed to a crawl. The driver glanced back nervously, sensing the sudden silence in the car. "Sir, is everything all right?" Andrew didn't answer. His lips quivered, his mind racing. How could this be? The man who saved his life, the man who pulled him from death, was now a beggar in the rain. He reached for the door handle, his heart pounding. The driver tried to protest. "Sir, you can't step out here. The rain." But Andrew pushed the door open anyway. The cold water splashed against his Italian shoes as he stepped into the storm. Each step toward Williams felt heavier, his breath sharper. He clutched the umbrella, shielding the frail old man who hadn't yet noticed him. "Mr. Williams." Andrew's voice trembled. The old man lifted his face slowly. His eyes were weak, bloodshot, and tired. But when they met, Andrew's recognition flickered. Tears welled instantly. His lips parted, his voice hoarse. "Andrew?" The sound of his name nearly shattered Andrew's composure. His eyes blurred with tears. "Yes, it's me. It's Andrew. Do you remember? You saved me. At the school pool. If not for you, I wouldn't be here today." Mr. Williams let out a shaky breath, his shoulders slumping under the weight of years of suffering. I remember. I would do it again. 1,000 times. Andrew's heart broke as he stared at the man who once gave him life, now broken by life itself. He dropped to his knees, ignoring the mud, soaking his designer suit. He grabbed Williams's trembling hands, his voice cracking with desperation. "What happened to you, Mr. Williams? How did it come to this?" The old man's lips quivered, rain mixing with tears on his face. His voice was fragile, almost swallowed by the storm. "Life happened. In a terrible way, Andrew. A fire took my home. My wife and 2 daughters gone in one night. They called me cursed, said I was a bad man. Parents complained, the school dismissed me. I begged for work, but no one wanted me. One by one, I lost everything, until all I had left was the streets." He broke down, clutching Andrew's hands tighter, sobbing into the rain. "Andrew, I am not a bad man. I swear, I wouldn't have saved you if I were a bad man." Andrew couldn't breathe. His chest ached. He pulled Williams into his arms, rain splattering them both. His mind screamed that this wasn't how a man like Williams should end. Not the man who saved him. Not the man who gave him a second chance at life. Through the downpour, Andrew shouted to his driver, "Open the car door, now." The driver hesitated, startled at the sight of his billionaire boss kneeling in the rain, cradling a beggar. But Andrew's tone left no room for questions. With all his strength, Andrew lifted Williams in his arms. The old man gasped, shocked that the boy he once saved was now carrying him like a son, carrying a father. Rainwater and mud stained Andrew's expensive suit, but he didn't care. As he placed Williams gently into the Bentley, Andrew whispered to him, "You saved me once. Now, it's my turn." The door slammed shut. The car pulled away from Oshodi underbridge, and with it, a storm far greater than the rain had just begun, one that would change both their lives forever. The ride to Lagos Medical Center was silent, except for the heavy patter of rain against the windows. Inside the Bentley, Andrew sat at the back beside Williams, who leaned weakly against the seat, shivering. Andrew had draped his suit jacket around the old man's frail shoulders, though the cold still rattled his bones. Andrew's mind was racing. How could this happen? How could the man who saved me be left to beg in the streets? The thought tore at him like claws. He reached out and held Williams's hand firmly, not caring that it was dirty and trembling. "Stay with me, sir," Andrew whispered, his voice raw. "You're not alone anymore. Not while I live." Williams turned his head slowly. His eyes were weary, but a faint smile flickered through his lips. You've grown into a fine man, Andrew. Your father would be proud." At the mention of his late father, Jonathan Emeka, Andrew's throat tightened. He nodded silently, gripping Williams's hand tighter. Moments later, the Bentley screeched to a halt at the hospital entrance. Andrew didn't wait for nurses. He jumped out, opened the car door, and lifted Williams into his arms again. The hospital staff gasped as they saw a billionaire CEO soaked in rain and mud, carrying what looked like a homeless beggar. "This man is my father," Andrew shouted as he stormed through the lobby. "Admit him. Treat him. Whatever he needs, he gets it." Doctors and nurses rushed forward, startled but moved by Andrew's words. Williams was whisked away into emergency care. Andrew remained in the waiting room, pacing with restless energy. His fists clenched, his expensive shoes leaving muddy streaks on the tiled floor. For hours, he waited. Every tick of the clock stretched his heart tighter. Finally, a doctor in a white coat approached him. "Sir, he's stable now, weak from malnutrition and exposure, but he'll recover. You saved him just in time." Andrew exhaled sharply, relief flooding through him. His eyes brimmed with tears he refused to let fall in public. He nodded. "Thank you. Keep him here until he's strong again. Money isn't an issue." 3 days later, Williams walked out of his hospital room, dressed in new clothes Andrew had bought for him. A clean kaftan, soft sandals, his beard trimmed, and his hair cut short. He looked like a different man. His steps were slow, but his eyes carried a light that hadn't been there before. When he saw Andrew waiting in the lobby, Williams stopped, overwhelmed. "Andrew," his voice cracked, "why are you doing all this for me? I am nobody." Andrew stood, his heart firm, his eyes unwavering. "You are not nobody. You are the reason I am alive today. If not for you, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be a man. I wouldn't be a CEO. I would have died as a foolish boy who thought he could swim. You gave me life. And now, I give you mine. From today, you are my father." Williams's knees buckled, tears spilling down his face. He tried to kneel in gratitude, but Andrew rushed forward, lifting him up. "No," Andrew said firmly. "You don't kneel to me. I kneel to you." And to everyone's shock, the billionaire dropped to his knees before Williams, clutching his hand with trembling fingers. "You saved me, Baba, and I will never let you suffer again." Within days, Andrew moved Williams into his mansion in Ikoyi. For the first time in years, Williams slept on a soft bed, ate warm meals, and walked around without shame. Staff addressed him as Sir. He was clothed in fine agbadas, and his presence filled the house with quiet dignity. But Andrew didn't just give him comfort. He gave him family. At the dining table, Andrew would sit beside Williams, laughing and eating with him. When guests asked who the old man was, Andrew would proudly reply, "This is my father." Yet, behind Williams's smile, there was always a shadow of sorrow. At night, when the mansion was quiet, Andrew would sometimes find him sitting alone on the balcony, gazing at the stars. "Do you miss them?" Andrew asked gently one evening, placing a hand on his shoulder. William's eyes glistened. "Every day. My wife, my 2 daughters, they were my whole world. When the fire took them, it took me too. That's why I ended up where you found me." He paused, swallowing hard. "But Andrew, having you call me father, it makes me feel like God gave me back a son." Andrew's throat tightened. He pulled the old man into an embrace. "And you'll never lose me. I promise you that." The weeks turned into months. Slowly, Williams's health improved, and he began to tease Andrew like a father would. "You are too rich to be single," he would say with a playful grin. "When will I hold your child in these arms before I leave this world?" Andrew would laugh and shake his head, but deep inside, Williams's words struck a chord. He had everything, wealth, power, status, but no family of his own. Then, one evening, as fate would have it, Andrew attended a tech conference in Lagos. There he met Amanda, a brilliant young woman with fire in her eyes and a heart as passionate as his. Their connection was instant. Within weeks, dinners turned into dates, and dates into love. When Andrew brought Amanda home, Williams greeted her with fatherly joy. He pulled Andrew aside and whispered, "This is the one. Don't let her go." Andrew smiled. "I wasn't planning to." Months later, the mansion lit up for Andrew's wedding. Guests filled the grand hall, music filled the air, and when Amanda walked down the aisle in her white gown, it was Williams, not Andrew's late father, who placed her hand into Andrew's. Tears streamed down the old man's face as he whispered, "Take care of her, my son." But even as the celebrations went on, Williams's heart carried a silent prayer. "Let me live long enough to see Andrew's children, just once." The night ended in joy. Yet destiny was not finished with Williams, because soon the laughter of babies would echo through the mansion. And with it, the old janitor's life would change in ways he never imagined. 2 years had passed since Andrew and Amanda's wedding, and their love had only grown deeper with each passing day. The mansion in Ikoyi was no longer just a house of wealth and power. It was filled with warmth, laughter, and the quiet wisdom of Williams, who had truly become a father to Andrew and Amanda alike. Then, one bright Lagos morning, Amanda called out to Andrew, with tears of joy streaming down her face. "Andrew, it's twins. We're having twins." For a moment, Andrew couldn't breathe. The news hit him like a wave of sunlight breaking through clouds. He pulled Amanda into his arms, lifting her off the ground as he spun her around in pure happiness. Williams, who overheard the news from the hallway, rushed in with his walking stick, his face wide with astonishment. "Twins?" Williams gasped, holding his chest as tears rolled down his cheeks. "God has truly answered my prayer." He dropped his stick and hugged Amanda gently, then pulled Andrew close. "My son, my daughter, this is the blessing I begged heaven for. You have given me reason to live again." Months later, the mansion was transformed into a celebration ground when Amanda gave birth to a beautiful baby boy and girl. They named them Jerry and Jessica. Williams was the first to hold them after Amanda. His old hands trembled as he cradled both babies, staring into their tiny faces. "Jerry and Jessica," he whispered, his voice shaking with emotion. "You don't know it yet, but your Baba loves you more than life itself." From that day forward, Williams and the twins were inseparable. Every morning, Jerry and Jessica would run into his room to wake him up. He told them folk tales about tortoises and clever rabbits, about wisdom and kindness, about mistakes and redemption. The twins would sit wide-eyed, giggling at his jokes, clapping at the funny twists, and resting their heads against his chest when sleep began to call. The mansion's staff adored the sight. An old janitor, once homeless under Oshodi Bridge, now living as a grandfather figure to the heirs of one of Nigeria's largest tech empires. But beneath the laughter, Williams carried a quiet fear. At night, when the house grew still, he would sit by the window with the twins asleep in his arms and whisper to himself, "How much longer do I have? Will I live long enough to see them grow?" One evening, Amanda noticed him wiping tears from his face. She walked over softly and placed her hand on his shoulder. "Baba, why are you crying?" Williams shook his head with a weak smile. "These tears are not of sadness, my daughter. They are of gratitude. I was once a man, the world threw away, but now I am holding tomorrow in my arms." He kissed Jessica's forehead and rocked Jerry gently. "But I pray God gives me more time. I want to watch them run, talk, and call me Baba until my last breath." Amanda's eyes glistened as she knelt beside him. "You will, Baba. You will. You are not going anywhere soon." The years rolled forward. Jerry and Jessica grew fast, their laughter filling every corner of the mansion. They adored Baba Williams more than anything. On weekends, they dragged him outside to sit under the mango tree, where he would teach them songs from his youth. When Amanda and Andrew were busy with work, it was Baba who fed them, played with them, and tucked them in with prayers whispered over their tiny heads. But one morning, everything changed. Jerry and Jessica rushed down the hall to Baba's room, as they did every day. They knocked on his door and shouted, "Baba, wake up, tell us stories." But there was no answer. They pushed the door open, giggling, expecting to find him pretending to sleep. Instead, they saw him lying still on his bed, his face peaceful, his eyes closed. "Baba?" Jerry whispered, shaking his arm. "Wake up. Jessica tugged at his blanket, her lips trembling. "Baba, please." When he didn't move, the twins' smiles faded. Tears welled in their eyes as they ran down the hall, crying loudly. "Daddy, Mommy, Baba won't wake up." Andrew and Amanda sprang from their room, panic in their eyes. They rushed to Williams's room, their hearts pounding. Andrew reached the bed first, grabbing Williams's shoulders and shaking him. "Baba! Baba! Wake up, please!" But Williams did not stir. His body was warm, his face calm, but his soul had slipped away quietly in the night. Amanda covered her mouth as tears poured down her cheeks. The twins clung to her legs, wailing. Andrew dropped to his knees beside the bed, sobbing openly, his hands clutching the sheets. The man who once saved his life, the man who became his father, the man who gave him back family, was gone. And as the morning sun streamed into the room, Andrew realized that life had given him a chance to repay kindness. But even that chance had an end. The following day, the mansion gates opened wide as people came to pay respects. Under the soft shade of a tree, Williams was laid to rest. Jerry and Jessica held their parents' hands tightly, crying as they watched the man they loved lowered into the earth. Andrew's voice cracked as he spoke at the graveside. "Though we are broken with grief today, I am grateful that Baba lived his last years with honor and love. He saved me as a boy, and I was blessed to save him as a man. He died not as a beggar in the rain, but as a father, a grandfather, and a man worthy of respect." His words carried through the crowd, and many wept openly. For Williams, the janitor once despised and abandoned, had finally been remembered not for the tragedies that struck his life, but for the kindness that defined it. But as Andrew stood by the grave, tears streaming down his cheeks, he didn't realize that Williams had left behind more than memories. There was something else, something hidden, that would soon shake Andrew's world again. The mansion felt emptier after Williams's burial. His laughter, his stories, even the sound of his walking stick, all gone. Andrew wandered into Baba's room one evening, drawn by a need he couldn't explain. The air still carried his scent, and the bed remained untouched. As Andrew stood to leave, he noticed something odd. A floorboard near the foot of the bed, slightly raised. He knelt, pressed it, and it shifted. Beneath was an envelope, yellowed with age, his name written on it, "For Andrew." His heart raced as he tore it open. "My dear Andrew," the letter began. "If you are reading this, then I have gone to meet my wife and daughters. But I cannot leave without telling you something. You were not the only child I saved at the pool that day. Another boy nearly drowned after you, and I pulled him out too. His family never forgave me. They accused me of luring you both, and their anger destroyed my life. They are the reason I lost my job, the reason people feared me. That boy may still live. If fate allows, protect him as I protected you." Andrew's hands shook. He whispered, "Another boy?" Baba carried this secret all these years. Amanda entered, holding a tray of tea. She froze when she saw the letter in his trembling hands. After reading it, her eyes widened. "So Baba suffered because of this other child's family?" Andrew's jaw tightened. "They ruined his name, Amanda. They left him to die as a beggar. I can't let it end here. I must find that boy." "But Andrew," Amanda said softly, "what if he still believes Baba was cursed? What if he refuses to listen? Then I'll show him the truth," Andrew replied, his voice firm. "I owe Baba that much." The next morning, Andrew began searching old school records, calling classmates, even tracking down retired teachers. Most had forgotten, but then one remembered clearly. "Yes," said a retired sports instructor, "there were 2 boys who nearly drowned that day, you and another, David Okoro. His parents blamed the janitor, said he was a danger. They forced the school to dismiss him." The name struck Andrew like lightning. David Okoro, the instructor sighed. "His family was wealthy once, but they lost everything. I don't know where he is now." Andrew ended the call, staring at the letter again. Baba had saved not 1, but 2 lives that day, yet only one had ever thanked him. Far across Lagos, in a dim apartment, a man sat alone, his face hardened with bitterness. On the wall hung a cracked family portrait. He muttered to himself, "That janitor ruined my life, and now he's dead. But the anger still lives." His name was David Okoro, and without knowing it, his path was about to collide with Andrew's, rekindling a story that fate had left unfinished. Andrew couldn't rest after learning David Okoro's name. For weeks, he searched Lagos, calling contacts, asking old friends, even hiring private investigators. Finally, one late evening, he got an address, a crumbling apartment complex in Ajagunle. Andrew drove himself there. He climbed the narrow stairs, heart pounding, until he reached the door. He knocked. The door opened slowly, revealing a man in his 40s, his face hardened by years of bitterness. His eyes narrowed. "Who are you?" Andrew straightened. "My name is Andrew Emeka. I think we have a past in common." David frowned. "I don't know you." Andrew's gaze was steady. "You nearly drowned at our school pool years ago. The janitor, Mr. Williams, saved us both. You and me." David's face darkened, his fists clenched. "Don't say that name." Andrew stepped closer. "Why?" "He saved our lives." David's voice shook with anger. "My parents told me he lured us there. After that day, our name was ruined, our fortune lost. Everyone whispered that we were cursed because of him. My family blamed him until the day they died." Andrew pulled out the letter, his voice steady. "David, listen to me. Baba never hurt us. He risked his life to save us. He carried the shame your parents placed on him, but in truth, he was a good man. I lived with him until he died. He was my father." David froze. His lips trembled, his eyes flicking to the old letter. Slowly, he took it from Andrew's hands. He read the words, and his shoulders slumped. Tears slipped down his cheeks. He remembered me," David whispered. "After everything, he still thought of me." Andrew placed a hand on his shoulder. "Yes, and his last wish was for me to protect you." David broke down, covering his face with his hands. For years, anger had poisoned him, but now it crumbled into grief. Weeks later, the Emeka mansion opened its gates again, not for sorrow, but for healing. David stood at the doorway, nervous, until Jerry and Jessica ran up to him, their laughter like sunlight. "Uncle David!" they shouted, tugging his hands. Amanda welcomed him warmly. Andrew stood beside him, proud. "Baba wanted us to be family. And now we are." David's eyes filled with tears as he looked around. For the first time in decades, he felt at home. That night, as the family gathered under the mango tree, where Williams once told his tales, Andrew lifted his glass. "Baba Williams may be gone, but his kindness lives on. It saved me. It saved David. And it will guide our children." The wind stirred gently through the leaves, and for a moment, Andrew felt Baba's presence there with them, smiling, content. The janitor who once saved a boy in the pool had, even in death, saved them all. If you like this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.